Auburn basketball earned a number 2 seed in the NCAA tournament in the same region as Kansas. I'm Blake Toppmeyer from the USA Today Network, here with Bennett Durando, the Auburn beat writer from the Montgomery Advertiser. Okay, so Bennett, wire to wire during the regular season, Auburn was the SEC's best team. They win the regular season title. They came out flat and didn't deliver in the SEC tournament. Going into March Madness, though, how concerning is that? Is that not? Because I know sometimes we see these conference tournaments are not really indicative of what's going to happen in the NCAA tournaments. What do you think?
Yeah, and other times they are. When Auburn made the Final Four 3 years ago, as a 5 seed in the NCAA tournament, they had just won the SEC tournament. So came in with momentum. After the last regular season game, Auburn coach Bruce Pearl said, so can we get hot now? That's the deal. And obviously he's been around for decades. He knows how it works. And as far as whether the loss to Texas A&M in the SEC tournament is concerning, what's concerning is the shooting and what Texas A&M did to force Auburn to shoot. Because when we're talking about getting hot, that often has a lot to do with how well your guards are playing and how well your guards are shooting the three-pointer. And that is one of very few weaknesses on Auburn's roster. The three-point shooting has not been good. It was 9 for 36 against A&M, so it's a matter of finding your shot. We saw Wendell Green Jr. get hot in the last few minutes of that game and sort of make it interesting. So at the very least, Auburn sort of goes in with a reminder of what that backcourt can do when it starts clicking. But A&M was playing really well. In terms of the loss itself, that's not extremely concerning. It's more of a matter of whether Auburn's backcourt is going to come out, throwing up bricks or if they can start getting some shots to fall.
When you look at the bracket, I always look for potential upsets early on in a team's path. And when I look at Auburn's path, I see Southern Cal there potentially in a round 2 matchup, a 26-win a USC team. Is that one that stands out to you as well as a potential early stumbling block? Is there some other teams before Auburn could potentially get to Kansas before they reach that point? Or are there some other teams that stand out to you that could give Auburn some trouble?
Yeah, USC was one of the teams that sort of stood out to me immediately. And it's funny, in 2019, the Auburn fan base sort of was rioting online over the group of death, so to speak, with having to play Kansas and North Carolina and Kentucky to get to the Final Four. And then Auburn beat all of those teams to get to the Final Four. This year, the draw is sort of maybe being seen as a little bit easier. Even USC is the lowest ranked 7 seed according to KenPom. So, it could be worse in terms of some of those matchups. There were some 10 seeds that would have been really brutal, like Davidson's shooting really well right now. They're one of the best offenses in the country. Loyola, Auburn had a single-digit win against them on a neutral court earlier this season. So, yeah, the immediate matchups, it's like you can't really ask for much more than USC, but the Trojans made a run to the Elite Eight as a 6 seed last year. They're proven they've got some returners from that team. So that's one of the teams that stuck out to me. LSU, actually, I know that it sort of is a tumultuous time for LSU losing Will Wade and everything, but that team is still one of the most efficient defensive teams in the country. And what LSU does is they make you shoot the 3 ball a lot. They are only allowing 14 2-pointers a game. They're, I think, 5th in the country, 6th in the country or so in that stat. Auburn's strength is its front court. It's tough to beat a team twice. I think LSU's could be a little bit of a wild card. They could go down in round 1, but that's a team that if they get past Wisconsin, they might match up decently against Auburn again. So I don't know. It is sort of the easier part of the bracket, but there are teams there with the defenses, and I'm curious to see if opponents will sort of force Auburn to shoot the 3 ball.
When you look ahead, it would seem like, just from a basketball appreciation standpoint, a potential matchup of Kansas and Auburn could be a bit of a gift from the basketball gods, if you will. I mean, you have the star power there between Auburn with Jabari Smith, and then with Kansas with Ochai Agbaji. What has to happen, though, do you think, for Auburn to get to that point? Like I said, that's sort of the dream Elite Eight matchup from a basketball standpoint. But what does Auburn have to do throughout this tournament, do you think, to get to the Elite Eight and beyond?
It's clear that Auburn has one of the best front courts in the country. You mentioned Jabari Smith, Walker Kessler too. Something to watch with Kessler is his left arm, which blocks the majority of his shots, has been in a brace. It's not severely hurt, but his shot blocking numbers have been a little bit down the last 3 games with that brace on. So, Auburn's rim protection has been its strength. That could play a factor. You need Kessler to be Kessler, and you need Jabari Smith to be Jabari Smith. But ultimately, it's going to be decided by the NCAA tournament as a guards tournament. I think a lot of people have sort of always thought that, and Auburn has been really inconsistent at the guard position. That sort of 3-headed monster of Wendell Green, Zep Jasper, and Katie Johnson. They can get clicking, and they're all really tricky defensively. They're also pretty undersized, and you have guys like Katie Johnson and will have an 0 for 14 shooting day like he did against Texas A&M. So I think it's going to be their production and their consistency that determines that. And then if you get to Kansas, it really is sort of an oh-so-sweet matchup with there's Christian Brown, too, for Kansas. They've got some bigger guards, so it would be sort of an interesting matchup in those backcourts.
All right, Bennett will have all the coverage of Auburn's run through the NCAA tournament, and you can find it at montgomeryadvertiser.com.